getting to that fourth stage where you start talking about how what you're doing, your mechanism is different. It's specific. It's really kind of that. It's where things like frameworks come in. You have a framework that is different from theirs. And that framework discussion gets you into the fourth level of market sophistication. Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Kling. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Hey there, welcome to episode 164 of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Kling. And I'm excited for today's show because we're going to be talking about a pretty kind of advanced marketing concept. But it's something that when you really get it, it can do wonders for the success of your overall marketing efforts. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about how you need to tailor your messaging based on two different things. First, the awareness or the level of awareness of your audience. And second of all, the level of market sophistication. So we're going to be talking about those two things because when you get those pieces right, you can really dial in your messaging and get it so that people are primed to buy. But before we dive in, if you enjoy this podcast, if you like kind of hearing from me, if you like talking marketing and like the way I approach marketing, I would love for you to join my free Facebook group, the Badass Online Marketers Facebook group. You can head over there. We talk about all things marketing. People ask me other random questions. We talk about it all. And like with everything else, I believe in authenticity. So I'm there active in the group, being the real me, kind of snarky, kind of fun, all of those things. You can join by heading over to bobbyklink.com/group. Again, bobbyklink.com/group. That'll take you to the Badass Online Marketers Facebook group. When you join, make sure you answer the questions. That's really kind of our only requirement. I don't want to say we don't care what you answer, but we just want you to answer to show that you do care enough to answer the few questions we've got, and then we'll let you in. So with that, let's dive into the issue of tailoring your messaging. And this is something that really kind of the idea for this podcast episode came to me back in late May. And I've had a few things going on, so I wasn't able to get it recorded and do all these things. But one of the things that I kind of know and that I've picked up in working with my coaches and tailoring messaging and things like that is that you can't have one size fits all marketing. I can't have one size fits all marketing for every potential prospect, but more importantly, depending on the space you're in, you really have to tailor it differently. So I wanted to come in and do this podcast episode to really help you think through and understand how to tailor your message so that it will hit the right place for the right person. So the first metric you need to know is how aware or how aware is your prospect or your lead? And this is kind of the level of awareness is something that people will go through the phases on their journey to buying. And so in some sense, understanding the level of awareness is about tailoring your message, tailoring the way you speak based upon where people are on their customer journey. So you're going to speak to a completely cold lead differently than you're going to speak to a red hot lead is basically kind of the way to think about it. And the way this is kind of broken down in the direct marketing lingo in which is what we all are. As an online marketer, you are a direct marketer. You are basically kind of doing this, asking for them to take action, et cetera. And it really comes, most of these ideas I don't want to say that they were first developed, but they were first really kind of put down, and most people will refer you to Eugene Schwartz's book, Breakthrough Advertising. It was written back in the 60s. It was out of print forever, but someone recently bought the rights and is reprinting it. So you can get your hands on it, but it's a pricey book. But this kind of is thought of as one of the quintessential books about messaging. And this happened to me like as I was working with folks in my Massive Action May program, where we kind of like just took a bunch of action in May. Someone was talking about like, they had a course and it had to do with one thing and they had this freebie. And I started talking and I started to ask them some questions about, well, where is the person when they're going to download the freebie? Do they know this? Do they not? And in kind of going through that work, we actually kind of got to the point of, I figured this out, that the problem was that her freebie was not speaking to the proper level of awareness. And I went back to Eugene Schwartz's book, which I had recently got, and I was reading, and there was this quote. And I'm going to read it for you. And I want you to listen to this, because basically this is an important concept. He's talking about headlines here, but this applies really to everything you're doing in speaking to your prospects. And so again, here's the quote. It touches your prospect at the point of awareness that he has arrived at today. If he is aware of your product and realizes that it can satisfy his desire, your headline starts with your product. If he is not aware of your product, but only of the desire itself, your headline starts with the desire. And if he's not yet aware of what he really seeks, but is concerned only with a general problem, your headline starts with that problem and crystallizes it into a specific need. So in that brief little section, Eugene Schwartz really kind of encapsulated an important piece. And in some sense, you could understand this and you could think about this in the context of maybe thinking through Facebook advertising. In other words, the ad that you would send to someone to get them into a launch is one thing. The ad that you would send to them, like once your cart is open, is going to be slightly different. And then a retargeting ad that you're going to send to people who, for example, visited your checkout page but didn't buy is going to be very different even from that. So you can kind of see how what they're aware of, where they are in their journey, affects how you speak to them. And generally, there are considered to be 5 levels of awareness. And I'm going to go through them. And they start kind of paradoxically, they start at the highest level of awareness. And literally, I think Eugene Schwartz people just refer to this as most aware. Most aware is a phase at which people know about your product. They know what it does. And they even know that they want it. They know that it meets their need. And at that point, obviously, you don't have to sell, you don't have to sell them on, wanting it. You don't have to sell them on any of that. Maybe you have to deal with some objections. Maybe you have to help them overcome a little bit. So this is kind of the level of awareness where, for example, and I'll talk about it in the context of my legal templates. So this is a point where people say, oh yeah, I know Bobby has his Online Genius template library. I know all about it. I know that it'll protect you. I know that I need to deal with my legal stuff. I know that these documents will do that, but I'm not sure if I will actually be able to do the work myself. I'm not sure if I'll be able to complete them. I'm not sure if it's going to be too complicated. So you can see they know the product. They're aware of it. They know they really want the result and that they kind of want it, but they have a doubt. They have a concern. And so at that level, what you have to do is kind of overcome the objection. It could be a price objection. It could be a time objection. It could be a million different things. But at this point, you don't have to actually sell them on the benefits of your product anymore. So that's kind of the key thing I want you to get. When people are most aware, you're no longer even need to talk about features or benefits. You just have to identify what is the thing that is stopping them. And then boom, let's get them past that and get them to take action. So that's kind of the highest level of awareness. Like if you're thinking about it in terms of like a Facebook ad, this is where you have like, the checkout page abandoners, and you have an ad that is going specifically to those people saying, hey, I see you almost pulled the trigger, but you didn't. What do you got? And maybe you address just a really quick thing. Maybe you bust the biggest objection that you hear from people in your Facebook ad, but it's not about the benefits of your product. It's not about the features, because they already know that stuff. All you have to do is do it. Now, a classic example of how people in e-commerce would do this, which we tend not to do in the information space, but is with a discount. It's like you hit people who didn't buy with a coupon. Right? You immediately kind of, if they don't buy, there will be a thing where, the next time they're on Facebook or they're on somewhere else, they all of a sudden see a coupon, which will get them 25% off the product they just left the page of. Because again, it starts with a product and it's just giving them a discount to get them into action. So that's kind of the thing. Again, like, in terms of headlines, Eugene Schwartz gives this example for a headline for the most aware. It's like Revere Zomar lens. I don't even know what that is, but electric eye camera, formerly $149.50, now only $119.95. So again, it's saying here's a discount. Buy now, right? It is literally just giving them an urgency piece, telling them you already know this, you already know you want it. Here's why you should buy it very quickly right now. So that's the most aware. The next is the next kind of like one step down from that is that they are product aware. They already know about your product. They have a general sense of what it is, but maybe they're not yet sure whether it actually gives them what they want. So this is when people are already warmed up. They already know what, kind of know of you, know of your product, have an idea, but they have questions. Does it, address like my need? Does it actually do it? It's all of those things. And so this is where, for example, you hit them with the benefits and then even some features. Some people care about features. So you're doing some of this stuff, but really you're just kind of reinforcing that this is for you. In email marketing, I would say, for example, that if you have a market about, or if you have an FAQ email, and you should, by the way, in a promo sequence, you should have an enhanced frequently asked questions. In that, a large part of what you're doing is talking to these people. You are helping them to get to the point of deciding, yes, I do want this. Yes, it is what I need. Yes, et cetera. So for example, when you have, who is this product right for? And even who is this product not right for? What you're doing is really reinforcing their desire, their belief that this product will work for them, their desire and their belief that your product is the solution that they are looking for. Because again, they already know the product. They already know basically the features. You just have to kind of get them over the hump. So you can kind of see in that case, you would often still you can lead by talking about the product because they already know about the product. And so your messaging can be related to the product. So this is kind of like once your cart is open in a promotion, you're generally talking to this category of people. If you're talking to warm audience, just talking to your launch list. If you're doing Facebook ads, but again, it's only talking to your launch list, you're probably in this category. Maybe not 100%, but hopefully most of the people know about your product. And now what you're doing is reinforcing that your product is what they want. So this is why, in a cart open phase, you'll often see the name of the product in the Facebook ads. You'll see it either in the headline. I mean, you'll often see it in the headline, but often in the first two lines, you will see a reference to the product because you're trying to reach the people who already know of the product. And you simply have to kind of overcome it and convince them that that product is in fact for them. And so that's kind of that level of awareness. Now, the next level of awareness is that people are what's called solution aware. And solution aware effectively means that they know generally that they need the vehicle, something related to what you are. So for example, in my world, they're aware that they need to learn email marketing. They're already aware of the solution, that email marketing is an important piece of your overall marketing, et cetera, but they don't yet know of your product. They just know this is something that will solve my problem. So they're aware of the general solution, et cetera. And again, we could talk about it kind of more easily in the context of like a physical product where, for example, someone is aware of like a camera, but like the idea of a camera and that what they need is a camera, but they don't yet know of your camera. And so this is kind of where you are having to tap into this, but you start at this level, not talking about your product, but talking about the solution. So in my case, I wouldn't refer to badass email marketing. I would talk about the importance of email marketing. And, kind of you lead by talking about the solution and really kind of leaning into that discussion of the solution. And you kind of start with that, and you really start with helping them to see that, they need that. And then you kind of talk about your product is the best embodiment, the best way to get this solution, et cetera. So that's kind of that level of awareness. Again, this is where they're not yet aware of your product. They may not even know you have a product, but they know they need someone to help them with this. So we can make this very simple. Someone knows they need help with Facebook advertising. They need to learn Facebook advertising. You start talking about Facebook advertising. You don't start by talking about the name of your Facebook advertising program. That's solution awareness. Now, the next level of awareness is a step below that. This is where they are problem aware, but not yet solution aware. So problem aware, again, in the online marketing space, just because that's what I can talk about easily, is they know they're not getting enough leads and sales. But they don't know what is the solution to that. They don't know what they need. Forget your product. They don't even know what it is. So again, to talk about the Facebook advertising, they don't know that Facebook advertising is the solution they need. They simply know, I'm not making money, I'm not getting leads, and I'm not making sales, so I don't know that. Or in the weight loss space, they know they need to lose weight, but they don't know, is it a diet? Is it exercise? They don't know any of that. Now, again, that's kind of a strange situation where we talk about like weight loss, because in that space, most of us are at least somewhat solution aware. And we'll talk about this in the next section where we're talking about market sophistication. But in the context of this, like just imagine that people don't yet know what the potential solutions are. And so you have to like focus on the problem and say, well, what you need to do is X or Y. And again, it's not about the specific mechanism, but getting them kind of to that next level. But again, this is why it's very simple in the marketing space to say someone who simply says, I need more leads and I need more sales. I don't know how I do that. I don't know what the solution is. This is where you have to start kind of making the case for your solution. In other words, this is where you need to talk with, like you would lead with, if you want to make, if you want to get more leads and make more sales, and then you start talking and present them with the solution. So again, I would present them with the solution of you need to focus on understanding your audience and building connections with them through email. And in that process, by the way, what I would do is I would kind of talk about other possible solutions and why they don't work as well. Because what I want them to say is, okay, the way to get more leads and more sales is with email marketing. Because what I'm trying to do is take them from problem aware to solution aware and believing in my solution. Then I take them up the ladder. So you can kind of see how if I start with someone who is problem aware, my first piece of content is to try, or my first piece of content with someone who's problem aware is to try to, I don't try to get them from problem aware to buyer. I try to get them from problem aware up to solution aware, believing in my solution. Then once they're solution aware, and this generally, if you're a launch model, will happen through a launch, or if you're not, will happen through like an evergreen webinar or something like that. You take them from solution aware to product aware, because you make them aware, I have a product which will help you with that solution. And then you kind of take them up that. And so this is what I want to get you to understand is oftentimes in at least online marketing, you are not trying to take someone who is simply problem aware and get them to buy. Your goal is to take the problem aware people and get them to the solution and then product awareness, and then they buy. So think of it as kind of a continuum. And what I want you to do, and there's a further level of awareness, and even lower level which is they are unaware. Like they're not even really aware of the problem. Maybe there's some kind of, unease, but they really, can't even put into words what it is, or they're not willing to admit it. If that's where they are, you have a long road to hoe. This is kind of where I was starting with the legal stuff, oftentimes because I was having to educate people that they even needed to deal with the legal stuff. So in some sense, you've got to get them, like I can talk about this from the legal perspective. The typical online entrepreneur, a lot of them had no idea about the legal stuff. So my first point of contact theoretically is to get them aware that that there is this need, that they have this problem, that they have to deal with the legal stuff. So that's kind of the first thing. Hey, you got to deal with the legal stuff. Get them from unaware to problem aware. Then I get them from problem aware to solution aware by saying, and you can solve that with legal templates, which actually, just get the written documentations and policies, and you can use templates to do it, et cetera. So that's kind of get them there. And then I get them up to product aware. So that's kind of the course of it on my legal business. And that gives you a sense of the entire flow. But what I want you to get from this largely is that what you're trying to do is tailor the message based upon the audience. So when you're trying to attract people into your world, depending on what space you're in, most likely they will either be problem aware or solution aware. And so your Facebook ads to cold traffic need to be speaking either to the problem and convincing them that the solution is whatever your particular type of solution is, or speaking to the solutions and kind of going deeper on that and talking about how you have something that will help them implement that solution. Again, not necessarily yet your product, but your freebie. And so that's where you're going to be talking about that language. And then even in like getting people to a launch vehicle, oftentimes you're going to be talking to that. You're going to be talking to solution awareness. You're going to be speaking to, people who either are problem aware or solution aware. And then like if you do a webinar, you're going to get them to the point of going through that and then to product awareness. And then you talk about your product so that they are theoretically most aware. And then they're just dealing with, whatever their particular issues are. So that's the framework. That's kind of the, if you will, the path that people will take over time. So that is like when you think of customer awareness, you need to think about that in your messaging. And so the point is like your retargeting ads will be very different from your ads going to cold traffic. And this concept is the whole reason that you're doing that. And that's kind of the first level. If you'll just make those changes and make sure that your marketing is truly speaking to the right level of awareness, you will be in good shape. That then takes us to the next piece, though, which is market sophistication. And this is kind of, in some sense, a master level of marketing. Very few people are doing this. And I want you to understand this. There are 5 levels of market sophistication. Again, originally defined by Eugene Schwartz. Again, at least in our space, that's who you hear everybody refer to. These don't have like different fancy names. It's like, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth stage awareness generally. And it really has to do with the level of saturation of the market. How many people are addressing the same need is kind of the way to think about it. And so if you are the first person to market you are kind of in a first stage, the first stage of market sophistication. You don't have to get complicated. So again, imagine, for example, that you were the first person to introduce a weight loss product. Well, if you're first to market, you literally don't have to do much. The desire is there. People want to lose weight. All you have to do is speak to the fact that your product will help them do that. And that is that's what your marketing is all about. Your marketing is all about talking about, you've got this desire. Hey, I got a product that'll meet you that. And, the desire itself, in some sense, it sells itself. What I will tell you is, this largely doesn't exist. I mean, there are a few markets, but as soon as one of these markets open up, you end up getting to the next level, because you will very rarely be the first to market. And so, and again, what I want to be clear is, when I say first to market, it's not the first with your particular solution. It's the first person to really address the particular need, to have a product that addresses that particular desire and need of your customer. So you can see why that doesn't happen very often. Now, again, I don't even know if an iPhone or, the BlackBerry, if you think about it, was kind of first to market in the concept of having email on a phone, like a mobile email. Yes, there had been some predecessors, but they all kind of stunk. Really, the BlackBerry was the first real device that did that. They didn't have to sell themselves. Like when I was starting as a lawyer, BlackBerry was what there was. That was the device, and that's what we all got, because that was the way that you could have your email portable on a phone-like device. So that's an example of kind of a first to market. All they have to say is, hey, email in your hand, and then boom, it sold itself. Now, the second phase is where there's already someone in the market. So there's already someone claiming that they can get the result. But there's not a lot of people in the market. And so at this stage, what you have to do is kind of push the claim or enlarge the claim. So a joking example of this would be, and I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but it's like, it was in a movie. Someone said, there's that product, 8-minute abs. Well, I'm going to introduce a product, 7-minute abs. I mean, that literally is kind of a funny example of this second level. And if it truly was that, it kind of is. But if you can say faster, better, more, those kinds of things, you're basically expanding the claim. And sometimes you're getting specific in the actual claim. It's like, not, I'm going to help you lose weight, but, you can lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Or, something where you're being specific and pushing the limits of kind of the claim, the results, the benefits. This is kind of a second level of market sophistication. And this is where people still they haven't yet become disillusioned with all these claims. They are looking for better, faster, quicker. That's kind of what they want. So that's kind of second level sophistication. Again, generally most markets, you're going to push through that pretty quickly. A lot of us are living in either what's the third or the fourth stage of market sophistication. And the third stage is where they've heard all the claims. They've already heard you talk about how you can help them lose weight. They can talk about that. They've heard all of those things. So what they want to hear is not that you'll help me lose weight faster, but this is where you actually have to talk about the mechanism. So this is where you come up with a different kind of mechanism, and you're talking about the mechanism. So for example, the keto diet is a different mechanism from, a low calorie diet. And so this is where at that phase, you would be focusing on, and I'm going to help you, you're going to do it with this, and you don't necessarily call it keto, but you're talking about the mechanism of what it is. You're talking about it kind of from the perspective of what's unique about kind of the features versus how's yours different than theirs. So that's kind of a third level market sophistication. Again, a third level though or a third stage is still actually a pretty immature market. Because if you think about it, And again, we can use like the diet phase. Well, once you're there, you have, guess what? You have multiple people selling the keto, and you have multiple people selling this, and you have, the South Beach. You have all of these different ideas out there. And so, in some sense, you kind of go past that into fourth stage when you're there. When there are multiple people with different with kind of the same mechanisms and all that, that's where all of a sudden you have to start talking about even like you're kind of doing the shift that you did from stage one or phase one to phase two or stage one to stage two, where you kind of enhance the claims and the benefits. The fourth stage is doing that, but with the mechanism. So you're kind of expanding the mechanism and enlarging the claims and how you talk about that, and really getting specific and differentiating them even within the mechanism. So even within kind of the features, the how, all of that, you're distinguishing that, and your marketing, your messaging talks to that. Again, that is a pretty high level of market sophistication where you're doing those things. Now, I want to step back and I want you to ask yourself, before I talk about the fifth stage of market sophistication, I want you to ask yourself, are you seeing a lot of people doing even the fourth stage, where they are really kind of enhancing, enlarging, really kind of getting specific in talking about the mechanism and how the mechanism is different and better, and et cetera? You're not. Most people never really get much beyond marketing at the third level. And some people don't even get there. But most people will get to the third level. Like, you would see in the online marketing space, you're like, I'm going to help you make more money by helping you create an online course. And it's just kind of that level. They're talking about the mechanism with an online course, right? That's kind of what they're doing. And so that's kind of a third level market sophistication. The problem is the question becomes, okay, well, why should I, pick you versus this other person who's going to teach me to create an online course? And so not enough people are doing that. And again, I don't want you to think about this from the perspective of a competition or competitors, but the reality is we have competitors. And so we need to be talking to them at a higher level if we really want to have the most impact for ourselves and build our business the best. And that's where kind of getting to that fourth stage where you start talking about how what you're doing, your mechanism is different. It's specific. It's really kind of that. It's where things like frameworks come in, where you start talking about how you have a framework that is different from theirs. And that framework discussion gets you into the fourth level of market sophistication. Because you are saying, I have something that's different about my mechanism, even than the people who are using the same mechanism. So that's fourth level of market sophistication. And what I want you to get is like, if you are speaking at the fourth level stage, just FYI, it will speak to people who are like, don't even realize it. And maybe some people are kind of, your customers aren't yet aware of this, but some are. So you're speaking to everyone who's up to that level in a sense. That then takes us to the final level. And the final level is, it's not about the product anymore. It's about identity. It's about speaking to an identity that your customer wants. This is, in some sense, the most elevated form. And it can be kind of hard to think this through, because it's not just about putting a word out there and having it work. But my coach, James Wedmore, I would say he's done this masterfully by talking about the digital CEO. Basically, what he has identified is he has said, if you want to be a digital CEO, that's what I'm going to teach you to do. So he's not talking, at the level of a problem. He's not talking at the level of a benefit. He's not talking about the mechanism. He's talking about, who do you want to be? And I'm going to help you be that person. So this is kind of the most elevated level of market sophistication. And if you nail this, people are like, yep, I want it. Yeah, they're going to have some questions, right? They're going to say, okay, well, can I afford it? And all these things. But like, they're like, yes, I want that. I want that identity. My other friend, Amy Porterfield, she has done this by talking not about creating an online or digital course, but by basically building and being the owner of a digital course business. So you see, it's slightly refined. She's not talking about just creating a course. She's talking about building a business based upon your digital course, and she's going to help you do that. And you can kind of see how that is a higher level, like it is a deeper discussion, because we're no longer talking about the what or the how, we're talking about the who. And so someone who says, yes, I want to have a digital course business, I want to have something built on that, they will resonate, because you're going to hear this and say, okay. So you're not going to just teach me how to create a course. You're going to teach me that I can build a business around this, right? And so this is kind of a next level, the fifth stage of market sophistication. Now, what I would say is that those of us like me who are kind of playing in the online marketing space, this is where we are. Now, with my legal stuff, no. My legal stuff, I don't need to get to the fifth level. But with my email marketing, I do. And with my email marketing concept, I mean, we have ideas for fourth stage, and we're working on, fifth stage. Because again, yes, I could say, do you want to be a badass, an email badass? But that's not exactly, in and of itself, the same way you hear, digital CEO, that's what I want. So this is the stage where I'm working through. And what I'll tell you is, when you nail that fifth stage of market sophistication and get your messaging to really speak to your people in a deep and meaningful way, that's when, you will have like meteoric growth, because all of a sudden it's kind of like, I don't really care. There are no competitors. This is where you can create, in a sense, a blue ocean out of a red ocean, because you can kind of differentiate and just kind of put yourself in a different world, because you are speaking to the person, to the identity that they want to become. So that is tailoring message based on market sophistication. And what I want you to get out of this is, like, again, if like you literally were first to market, talking about all the other stuff, talking about frameworks, talking about features, don't do it. What they want to hear is this solves this problem, and boom, they're sold. But most of us are well beyond that. Most of us are living in a market where we will be best served by being in the third, fourth, or fifth stage. So and what I would say is, for most of you, try to get to the fourth stage of what is a framework. How can you talk about your mechanism, your how, in a different way? That's where you should be really focusing. And that's where kind of you need to be thinking through how you do this and how you actually kind of do this in a different way. My email marketing approach is all about this. I talk about how I approach things on email very differently than most people, because I have a different concept of what you should be doing. A lot of people are teaching you to do this. Don't do it. Do this instead. And here's why. I'm really kind of distinguishing those pieces, but also we're working on a deeper framework that we're going to be rolling out before too long that talks about everything. And so that's kind of where we are going to be talking and kind of living in that world, because that's how you really start to really resonate with people more and more. So I would encourage you, look into this. Hopefully this has been helpful, but I will tell you, you can also look deeper. You can, you can just do some research on this, but I would recommend to you, it's put out by Titans Marketing now is where you can find it. But if you're willing to spend a little bit of money on a book, because it is not cheap. It is a 3-figure purchase. I would suggest that you get your hands on Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, because it will help you with this and so much more in your marketing. That's it for this week. Again, I would love to have you join me inside the Badass Online Marketing Facebook group. It is absolutely free. That's where we can talk about these things. If you want to have discussions about these things, like if you have ideas for third stage or fourth stage or whatever, come in there. We can chat about it. We can have some fun talking about these things and really have these discussions in the group. You can join by heading to bobbyklink.com/group. Again, bobbyklink.com/group. And I'll talk to you again next week. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.